The rain tapped steadily against the windshield as Lucas Grant sat in the driver's seat of an old sedan, not the sleek company car he was known for. Today there was no driver, no assistant, no boardroom waiting. Just him, a faded hoodie, and the idea that had been keeping him awake for weeks. As the billionaire CEO of Horizon Motors, Lucas had built a name on innovation and sharp strategy. But somewhere along the way, he began to feel detached from his people, his purpose, even his own product. He parked at one of the companies. Older, modest suburban dealerships, one that rarely made headlines or bonuses. No one there had ever met him in person. That was the point? Walking in, Lucas felt a strange mix of invisibility and anticipation. The showroom smelled faintly of coffee and motor oil. A young receptionist offered a polite smile, barely glancing up. The sales manager greeted him with a firm handshake, seeing only another potential customer in beat-up sneakers. Lucas played the part, asking about used cars, loan options, even test driving a modest hatchback. Every word, every gesture, every tone, he took it all in. But this wasn't a performance to catch mistakes or judge efficiency. Lucas wasn't looking for someone to fire. He was searching for something he'd lost, the human heartbeat inside his company. The dealership had its flaws: outdated tech, a stressed-out staff, but what struck him most was the quiet resilience beneath it all. The place wasn't just selling cars. It was holding lives together. Outside, the rain hadn't let up, but Lucas barely noticed anymore. As he stood near the service garage, watching a mechanic kneel beside a customer's truck, he felt something stir inside him. Here, among these ordinary workers, was something extraordinary: a dedication not driven by profit, but by pride, struggle, and community. No one knew he was the CEO, and for the first time in a long while, Lucas was grateful for that. Because sometimes, to see the truth of what you've built, you have to step outside the office and walk quietly among the people living it. The steady hum of power tools and the occasional clank of a wrench echoed through the dealership garage, mingling with the faint scent of motor oil and rain. Lucas wandered through the service area, unnoticed, until a voice called out over the noise, warm, direct, unmistakably human. "You lost, or just trying to escape the sales sharks?" He turned to see a young woman wiping her hands on a rag. Grease streaked up her arms. Her name tag read Emily. She was small but sturdy, with tired eyes that still managed to shine. She handed him a paper cup of burnt coffee and offered a half smile. "Sorry, it's not exactly gourmet. But it does the job, kind of like me?" Lucas chuckled, accepting the cup. "You work here?" "Yep, part-time wrench turner, part-time desk wrangler, full-time chaos coordinator," she said, brushing a smudge from her cheek. "Single mom special. Just trying to make it to payday without the world collapsing." She said it lightly, almost joking, but Lucas heard the weight behind the words. The way her shoulders never quite relaxed. The way she subtly glanced over to check on a teenage boy fumbling with an oil filter. "My intern," she explained. "He's got more potential than he realizes. Just needs someone to believe in him." Lucas watched her guide the boy patiently, her tone never sharp, her encouragement steady. She wasn't doing this for praise. She did it because someone once probably hadn't done it for her, and she remembered what that felt like. For a moment, Lucas forgot who he was supposed to be. He wasn't the CEO evaluating performance or scouting talent. He was just a man, being quietly moved by another person's decency. In a world where too many only looked up the ladder, Emily had her feet on the ground and her heart wide open. He studied her face as she laughed with the intern, her fatigue momentarily eclipsed by purpose. This woman, juggling 2 jobs and a child at home, had more integrity in a single moment than some executives had shown in years. And without even knowing it, she was starting to change him. The late afternoon sun filtered weakly through the dusty blinds of the dealership office. The chaos of the garage had quieted, and most of the staff had clocked out. Lucas lingered near Emily's small desk, sipping the now cold coffee she'd given him earlier. He glanced around, eyes catching the mismatched folders stacked in a corner, sticky notes stuck to the monitor, and a child's drawing crayon hearts and a stick figure labeled Mom taped to the wall. It felt lived in, real. Then, on the cluttered surface, something caught his eye, a printout, slightly crumpled, half tucked under a clipboard. He pulled it closer, casually at first, then stopped cold. It was a buyback contract. But not like any Lucas had ever seen. No dealership. Letterhead, no company seal. Just a simple, handwritten agreement. Emily's name. The signature of a man named Walter Jensen. And most startling of all, zero interest. Zero fees. No official record. It was a personal agreement. Lucas read every line, his heart sinking and rising at once. Walter was an 82-year-old former school bus driver who'd fallen behind on payments. The dealership was going to repossess his truck. According to policy, there were no exceptions. But Emily had made one quietly, discreetly, using her own paycheck as collateral. Lucas's hands trembled slightly as he set the paper down. She had no authority to do this. She could be fired for even suggesting it, let alone following through, and yet she had, not for credit, not for some act of rebellion, but because one man's truck was his only connection to the outside world and she couldn't watch it be taken away. Lucas stared at the contract, time seeming to slow. This wasn't some grand gesture for cameras. It wasn't charity. It was dignity given, not demanded. It was what compassion looked like when no one was watching. His throat tightened. The weight of boardroom decisions, of rigid policies crafted in sterile environments, suddenly felt heavier than ever. Emily hadn't just broken the rules, she had redefined what leadership could look like. And she had done it with nothing but empathy, risk, and a fierce belief in someone else's worth. Lucas realized then she was the kind of leader he'd been searching for. In the last place he expected to find her. The dealership was quiet now, the hum of engines replaced by the soft buzz of a vending machine in the corner of the break room. Fluorescent lights flickered slightly overhead. Emily sat alone, sipping. From a chipped mug, her overalls streaked with the day's labor. Lucas stepped in quietly, no longer just a stranger in a hoodie. He closed the door behind him. Emily glanced up and smiled until she saw the seriousness in his eyes. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket and placed it gently on the table. The buyback contract. Her face drained of color. I can explain, she said quickly, voice tight, standing halfway. Please, he's a good man. Walter's on oxygen and lives alone, and that truck is how he gets to the pharmacy. The grocery store. Lucas raised a hand, gently stopping her. Emily, he said, calmly but with weight, I'm not here as a customer. She blinked. Confused, I'm Lucas Grant, CEO of Horizon Motors. Silence swallowed the room. Emily's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes welled up as the reality set in. Her legs gave out slightly as she sat back down. I didn't mean to lie. I wasn't trying to cheat the system. You thought you were about to be fired, Lucas said softly. She nodded, tears slipping free despite her effort to hold them in. Yeah. He sat beside her. I need to know why, he asked, not accusing, just human. Why risk everything for one man's truck? Emily swallowed, staring at her hands. Because once someone didn't. My dad worked for a company for 25 years. Got sick, missed work, and they cut him off. No severance. No support. We lost our home. I was 16. I remember watching my dad, this strong, proud man, cry because he couldn't afford milk. He died thinking the world was cold. She paused, trembling. I promised myself if I ever had the power even the tiniest bit, I wouldn't let someone else feel that helpless. Not if I could help it, even if it cost me. Lucas didn't speak for a moment. The weight of her words sank into him deeper than any business report ever had. In that raw, tear-stained confession, he saw what his spreadsheets never showed. The people between the numbers and for the first time in years, Lucas Grant didn't feel like the one in charge. He felt like the one being led by someone who understood what leadership really meant. A month had passed, but the ripple from that one quiet act of kindness had only grown stronger. In the towering glass headquarters of Horizon Motors, hundreds of employees, executives, managers, regional reps filled the auditorium for the annual leadership summit. Suits lined the rows. Polished shoes tapped nervously on the floors. Everyone expected numbers, charts, forecasts. But today, Lucas Grant had something else in mind. He stepped onto the stage not with a PowerPoint, but with a story. I want to tell you about someone who reminded me what leadership really looks like, he began. Not someone from a boardroom, not someone with a title, just someone who made a choice that went against the rules but stood firmly on the side of compassion. The room shifted, interest peaked. He spoke of a dealership on the outskirts of town, of an elderly man on the brink of losing his only means of independence, and of a woman unnamed who risked her job to protect his dignity. As the story unfolded, emotion crept into his voice, and when he reached the moment of the buyback contract, a hush fell over the entire room. Then Lucas turned slightly, gesturing to his right. "And now I'd like you to meet her." Emily stepped forward from the wings, dressed in a crisp navy blazer, her hands only slightly trembling. The room erupted not in polite applause, but in something warmer, more real. Some stood, some wiped their eyes, many looked changed. Lucas placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "This is Emily, and as of today, she is Horizon's first vice president of customer advocacy. Her mission: to rewrite our policies so that people are no longer just entries on a ledger, but human beings worth fighting for." Emily looked out over the sea of faces, not with pride, but with purpose. She wasn't there to be celebrated. She was there to rebuild something better. And as the room absorbed the weight of the moment, Lucas closed with words that would be echoed in offices across the country. In a world full of rules, one act of compassion rewrote the game. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a CEO can do is listen like a human. The applause that followed wasn't just for Emily. It was for a new chapter, one written in empathy, one policy at a time.